Now let's look at the first assignment that goes along with our study of HTML. It's about headings. On Google Classroom, on the Monday tag right here, there is HTML number 1, and it's about headings. This document right here is a handout that kind of helps you along a little bit if you want to use it. The handout looks like this. You'll have to get to code.org and I'm going to show you this in a minute. You'll have to get signed in. And then we're going to create some what are called HTML headings in this example. I've got some step-by-step instructions right here, but I will show you how that all works here in just a minute. I'm going to demonstrate it for you. The handout's here to remind you of some things, but I'm going to show you. All right. When you get done, you have to share your results, and I will show you how to do that in this movie as well. Okay, and then, the saving and testing is it'll show. I'll show it to you. I don't know what I'm saying. I'll show it to you here in a second. And then submitting is where you use the share button, but I'll show you that in a minute as well. So everything is here on the handout, but I'm going to demonstrate it for you here. So you'll need to get to code.org. All right, you can open a tab. You can do this on your Chromebook or if you're working on a computer. If you happen to be working on a different computer, make sure that you're signed in to your redpride.net Google account. That is important. But if you're on your Chromebook, you can just go to code.org. All right, that's great. And then way over on the right-hand side, there's a sign-in button, so you do that. And then you want to make sure you just do continue with Google. That way, it'll use your redpride.net email address, your account, and get you signed in that way. So we're going to continue with Google. Make sure you do that. You may have to identify yourself. Do that. This is because I'm a teacher and I have it all connected to my Google Classroom, so I have to say allow right there, but you won't have to do that. And so now I am on code.org. The next step is that you want to go to projects right up here at the top, kind of top left, click on projects. You will see that it says you can start a new project in the Sprite Lab, Artist, App Lab, Game Lab, but none of those are the one we want. So I'm going to go to View Full List right here. I've got to scroll this down some, and I'm looking for the Web Lab. That's where we're going to be working for a while. I mean, it's going to be several weeks that we're going to be working in the Web Lab to do the things that we're going to do. So I'm going to click on Web Lab there. All right, and here is what you will see when you get to the Web Lab. Over here on the right-hand side, this is a preview area where the results of your code that you write will show up over here on the right-hand side. This area in here, in kind of the middle, that's where you actually write the code, and there is some code in there already. We're going to add to it today. And then over here on the left-hand side, these are, and we'll use this a lot more later on when we get into this a little farther, but this is like an asset panel where you can have pages and pictures and just things that you are using in your little websites that you put together for this class or for whatever other purpose. All right, so let's go to work on what we're going to do today. This is about headings, and I want you to learn, if you don't already know, I want you to learn some things about headings. So follow these instructions here. Here in the coding area, you see where it says body right there. That's the beginning of the body of the document. And also here's the end of the body of the document. Now, all of the code that you're going to add today needs to be in between those two tags. These are called tags. That's a body tag, a start of the body, and that's the end of the body. So you need to click here at line number 7. There's a little line number there. Maybe press enter a couple of times to give yourself some space, and then you can use your up and down arrow, and you're ready to start coding. All right. So let's look at what these headings, how do you do them and how do they work? All right, well, and by the way, if you look at the handout on the assignment, I want you to do 2 examples of each. 2 examples of each. So follow this, watch this. All right, so a heading. There are 6 different kinds, and it works this way. Let's start off. You do a less than sign. That's right next to the letter M, and you have to shift. And I always call those brackets, so get used to it. You're going to hear me say bracket a lot, but it's a left bracket or a less than sign. And then we're going to code in H1. It's going to be an H1 heading. And then we're going to close that bracket with the greater than sign, so it's like bracket H1 bracket. That's how you'll always hear me say that as we work on these kinds of things. Now, the next thing that we're going to put here, it really doesn't matter that much what it says, but I have a couple of rules. It has to be school appropriate, and it can't be this. You can't just put gibberish on there. Don't want that. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that. I want you to think of something, and it could be, you could put the title of a movie, or you could put a person's name that you know, or you could say something like, this is an H1 heading. How does it look? Right? You just come up with something. So come up with something to say. Use your brain. Think of something. All right, now I've started the H1 heading and I typed some text on there. Now I need to close the heading. So here's what that looks like. I'm going to go bracket slash H1 bracket. That's what closes a heading. So look at that real closely. Look at the tags. Those are called tags. The things that have the brackets around them are called tags. And at the beginning of that sentence, if you want to think of it that way, I put bracket H1 bracket. That starts the heading. And then I type my text in there. This is an H1 heading. How does it look? And then at the end of it, it's bracket slash H1. Those are rules of the language. You have to do that to make it work. Now, if we look over on the right-hand side where we're previewing the results of our page, you can see the result. Okay, the text is kind of big and kind of bold, and that's what you're going to find that an H1 does. Well, all right, let's continue on. Now, I said there are 6 different kinds. 6 different kinds. And so the next one is going to be, I don't think this is going to surprise you too much, it's going to be an H2. But the thing that we do need to make sure that we know, and maybe you already do, this could be a review if you're somebody who's done some HTML coding before. The thing we need to make sure that we know is, so what's the difference? All right, well, I'm just going to say this is an H2 heading. Does it look different? Again, it doesn't matter that much what you write. It has to be school appropriate, and it can't just be a bunch of gibberish. All right, then to finish that tag, to finish the H2, I'm going to go bracket slash H2 bracket. Okay, so I'm just going to keep plugging along here. Now let's take a quick look over at the right-hand side at our preview and what happened. Well, okay, the H2, if you look closely, the H2 is a little smaller than the H1. Is that establishing a pattern or a trend? It might be. Let's go back over here and code some more. H3, this is an H3 heading. I think it will be smaller than H2. All right, so I started an H3 heading with bracket H3, bracket, and then I said this is an H3 heading. I think it will be smaller than H2, and so I'm going to finish that tag. You have to get in the habit. If you start a tag, you know, most of the time, you're going to find some exceptions to this, but if you start a tag, you have to finish it. And if you'll look carefully at the code that I've written, you can see how they start and how they finish. Right? The closing part or the ending part or the finishing part has that slash in it. The starting part or the beginning part doesn't have the slash in it. All right, and if we look over on the right-hand side, the H3 is a little bit smaller than the H2. Well, so you know what's going to happen, don't you? All right, this is an H4 heading. Oops, bracket slash H4 bracket. The more you do this, the faster you get at it. All right, and if we look over on the right-hand side, the H4 heading is getting really small. H5, let's go back over here and code some more. This is an H5. I think it is gonna be, I can't type, sorry, tiny. Bracket slash H5 bracket. And you might notice when you're doing this that the text that you're typing doesn't appear until you close the tag, until you close the heading tag, until you do that like bracket slash H5. It didn't show up over there. Well, all right, H5 is tiny, but do you remember how many I said there are? There are 6. So that means there's another one. All right, so this is an H6 heading. Oh my. Really small. Bracket slash H6 bracket. And if we peek over on the right hand side, it is really, small. Okay, now remember this. You have to do another set, right? The assignment is that you have to do 2 of each. So in what I've done so far, if you look at my code here, I've got an H1, an H2, an H3, H4, H5, and an H6. Okay, that takes care of 1 of each. I did 1 of each, but that's not the end of the assignment. Now I got to do it. Boy, now I got to do another set. What a slave driving teacher I am. Well, all right, and this is repetition. That's what I'm after. I want you to learn it. I want you to have it kind of in your brain. So, and you could switch up the order if you wanted to. I could come along, and it can't just be the same thing twice. I don't want that. Don't do that. All right, but the order doesn't make a difference. I did a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the first set, and then I could come along here if I wanted to and do maybe we reverse it, and we start with an H6 and say, let's go from really small, H6, and then I'll do an H5, to a little bigger, bracket slash H5, and I'm not going to do this whole thing, but H4, and now a bit bigger, bracket slash H4. And if you look over here on the right, you see I've got just kind of the opposite of what I had doing before, where I started up here and it was big and then it got smaller, smaller, smaller. So now I'm going from really small here and it's getting bigger, bigger, bigger. And to finish this off, I would have to go ahead and do the H3, the H2, the H1, and then I would have 2 of each. And that's the assignment. That's what you have to do. Now, in wrapping this up, what do you do when you're all done, you're finished, you got it all put together, you're happy, happy, happy? Here's one thing. Renaming it's a really good idea. Up here on the top left, you can rename. Instead of just being Untitled Project, maybe we call this HTML number 1, and it's about headings, right? That's what the assignment is. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a name, HTML1 headings, and I'll save that. Then, to turn it in, here's what you do to turn it in. Also up here on the top left-hand side, there's a share button. So you click share. And you're going to see a link pop on here. So you just click that link one time and you copy that link. And so that's a right-click copy or a Control-C or however you want to do it. So I'm going to copy the link, and then you would have to get back to Google Classroom and view the assignment. And I actually can't show you. I'm a teacher. I can't turn things in. So what I would have to do here is you would have to do the whole add button over on the right hand side. You would add link and then paste the link in there. I want you to submit the link that you just copied. That's the wrong thing, sorry. The link that you just copied from code.org. All right, that's how you turn it in. You get back to Google Classroom, hit the add button, click link, paste the link in there, and then add link, and then you have to click the turn in button as well. That, folks, should do it. That is assignment number 1 on code.org in HTML.